Welcome back, guys. Hope you're all having a great day out there. Well, now that it's no longer April Fool's Day, it's much easier to separate what's being put out publicly as a joke versus what is not. What is actually the truth versus what is not. And that's what I want to do here today as it relates to Ripple and XRP. I want to cover what's going on with the Clarity Act, also what's happening in the market right now, and some community updates at the end. Now guys, before we get into some of this deeply on some of the misinformation that's being put out there versus what Ripple is actually doing, I want to talk to you about something that Ripple put out here today in Brad Garlinghouse about a half hour ago, about 30 minutes ago, from the time of this recording, because I believe this sets the stage perfectly as Ripple put out this. Justin Global Credit Rating Agency, Kroll, has assigned Ripple Prime Investment Grade Issuer Rating, BBB, reflecting the financial strength, business expansion, discipline execution of our growing prime brokerage platform. Built at the intersection of traditional and digital asset capabilities, Ripple Prime is meeting the demand for trusted, well-capitalized prime brokerage services. With this rating, the market is taking notice, and Brad Garlinghouse wrote, "Clear validation of Ripple Prime's strength, reliability, and tech with today's investment-grade issuer rating from Kroll. Momentum builds when markets recognize these things." Now, those of you that are on X probably saw this last night. There was a CEO of Avalanche putting out this post, original post. Banks are choosing Ripple. April Fools. Obviously, they actually use Avalanche. Now, while I didn't actually find this funny at all, I did find it to be untrue. Now, something that was comical is what Brad Garlinghouse, the CEO of Ripple, put just below. "Glad to know we're living Runtree in your head." Now, it seems to me that a lot of people agree, as well as 12,000 likes, is what Brad Garlinghouse's response got opposed to the 1.2 thousand likes that the original post from the CEO of Avalanche actually got. And one thing I like to do as a reference, and, this isn't the end-all be-all, but is to use AI, and quickly writing does Ripple work with more banks than Avalanche in knowing the answer here, and I know many of you do as well, but this is what you're going to get if you ask AI. Yes, Ripple works with significantly more banks and financial institutions than Avalanche. Ripple via Ripplet and related solutions like on-demand liquidity, ODL using XRP has established partnerships with over 300 financial institutions worldwide, including many traditional banks and payment providers, and this network spans 6 continents. And so, when we look at some of the major banks in Standard PNC Bank's Standard Chartered Bank of America, we could go on and on and on, right? And there are 300 out there that we can publicly confirm. But it's so much bigger than this. When we talk about the network effect and what Ripple has created, we're talking about thousands of banks. Yes, there are the NDAs on the sidelines, but we also know, yes, just yesterday, Ripple Treasury put out a post talking about how they're introducing the first native on-chain capabilities in enterprise treasury management. Well, Ripple Treasury, right, which was previously G-Treasury, they do have 13,000 banks within their pipeline. So, in Ripple acquiring G-Treasury, well, now Ripple has, of course, that amount of banks within their pipeline on top of what they already have. And of course, a blockchain company, a crypto company, is going to use their blockchain services, their solutions, and so in one sentence, does Avalanche work with banks, and if so, how many? Well, yes. Avalanche does work with banks primarily, though, through pilots and tokenization projects, stablecoin initiatives, and so forth. And they do work with some hard hitters out there, plus solutions to connect to thousands of U.S. community regional banks via partners like FIS and Entrain. The exact numbers are not publicly tallied, as many involve testing or indirect access rather than full production deployment. Apple has already been through all the testing, been through all the piloting that Avalanche is going through right now. Now, I want to shift over to what's going on with the Clarity Act. Of course, a lot of people talking about how Coinbase expects a deal on the Clarity Act stable coin rewards provision within 48 hours. This came out just yesterday. So, now we're looking at potentially tomorrow, check out this interview. Tim Scott, who of course introduced the Clarity Act, I think believed, and many did, that we were going to have a resolution of this in the fall of 2025. It has gone on much longer, this argument, than many believed. But talk about that 48-hour time frame. Do you really believe that we're going to have resolution in 48 hours after all of this? I'm very confident we're going to see progress, and the reason for that is we need to finish the job. It's true. The Genius Act passed last year was a watershed moment for crypto and for the crypto economy. For the first time, we had sensible rules in place that govern this important part of crypto. However, it's important that we provide a full market structure into which the crypto legislation from last year can fit, and that's what Clarity fundamentally provides. I do think that it's important that we finish the job in particular on deciding which tokens, which crypto projects really should fall to the jurisdiction of the SEC on the one hand, and which really are better served by oversight over at the CFTC. I think Chairman Scott deserves a lot of credit. He has certainly been persistent, even patient, as we've worked through a lot of these issues. I think that with all the progress that we made over the last several months, it's exciting to see that we're moving towards a markup hearing in the Senate Banking Committee, hopefully as soon as in the next few weeks, and ultimately a floor vote and passage of the bill with a signature by the President to follow. Now, on top of talking about the Clarity Act, an article surfaced here today talking about Evernorth says, Clarity Act could open the floodgates. 5 reasons our XRP's commodity status could be codified into federal law. Institutional capital gets the compliance certainty it has been waiting for. Stablecoin Clarity expands the toolkit for on-chain financial infrastructure. A defined token taxonomy gives XRP-based markets a legal scaffolding. U.S. legal clarity can set the global standard for tokenized capital markets. And Evernorth right now holds over 473 million XRP in treasury and plans to deploy that capital into on-ledger protocol markets. Now, in speaking of AI and what's going on in the market here today, if you're to ask, in one sentence, why is the crypto market down here today? What you'll get is the crypto market is down primarily because President Trump's prime time address on Iran signaled no quick de-escalation or reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, driving oil prices higher, stoking inflation fears, and triggering a broad risk-off sell-off with significant long liquidations. Now, I feel as though the market's a little overreacting here today. A little emotional knee-jerk reaction here today is what we're getting. And being in the traditional markets over a decade, being in crypto over 6 years, what I can tell you on the macro side of things, this is short-lived, short-term volatility. But what isn't short-term? XRP. XRP is here to stay. The utility, the use cases, the fundamentals haven't changed a bit. And that is why it's so incredibly important for us to stay locked in on the research and understanding and educating ourselves on what XRP is going to do for the financial system.